Hey, this is Amir. I play Aram on The Blacklist, and you are listening to The Blacklist Exposed.
You know, Aaron, you've been running a little bit long lately here on the podcast, and I think I'm going to have to cut you off.
Troy, if you try to castrate my time...
Okay, I promise I won't touch that subject anymore. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and I am just a little better at subtle than Troy is. Thanks for joining us this week as we discuss number 132 on the Blacklist, the wincing. Sorry, that's what I have to do anytime one of these creepy eunuchs walk by. The episode was actually called The Vehm, and it aired January 28, 2015, was written by Vincent Angel. What a cool last name. And directed by Michael Watkins. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. Troy, there has been a lot on the internets about this episode. So what did you think about The Vehm?
I have to tell you, I had to watch it 2.5 times. And
2.5?
Yeah.
What's the half for?
I fell asleep. I worked really late last night. So I was like, oh, man, what did she say at the end? I forget. So I had to watch it again. Yeah, the second time around, I'm like, it's groovy, it's Blacklist, I get it. First time, man, I really had some issues with the episode. But second time, it's like, okay, I can live with it.
Yeah, I think I'm on the other half. I actually liked it. Like, after the second time, I really enjoyed it. And I know that doesn't seem to be a popular opinion, but oh well, I enjoyed it. It was very dark and seedy, and that's what I like. So it worked for me. And plus, who doesn't like a eunuch? I mean, that takes cojones to do what they do. You know what I mean? Now, we asked you last week to... oh, man.
It's like we're going to have like the worst episode ever because everybody's like full of hate and venom. I
feel bad. Guys, if you're diehard on the show, you might want to skip this section because we did... That was our profiling question of the week, and we had to ask it last week, which was, how do you feel about a Blacklist baby? Now, I just want to preface, I like this episode, and... I had some concerns about the baby, but man, there's some responses. Okay, so Tessa says, I think the writers would have gone there anyway. It mirrors Katarina's story, Red's story. It forces the direction and increases the dramatic stages. It mirrors Liz's transformation into a reflection of Katarina. I personally love it. It creates more chances for more scenes between Red and Tom, and I love the chemistry between Ryan Aggold and Jane Spader. I would love to see more of it. I would love to see them forced to team up to save Liz or the baby. It would also give Tom a much better understanding of what Red does and would tie Red and Tom together forever. Now that kid better learn to control the violence or he or she will be shooting people at 2. With dead aim, too. Ha! Dead aim. Dad joke.
Nice. I like that Red and Tom actually having to work together. That might be interesting. I'd like to see where that dynamic goes because they used to work together. Then he pissed Red off, and pissed Red off again. Then they were kind of working together and pissed Red off again. So it's like this back and forth, which kind of goes into
It's almost like their
episode.
father and son, kind of, isn't it?
Maybe. You're starting early. Get them all riled up.
Sorry.
All right. Miss Monica said, I'm not excited about the Blacklist baby. Just seems like a boring storyline. I would rather spend the time focusing on finding out more about the supporting cast, like how Mr. Kaplan ended up with Red, or just more about Red and Tom's history, which could be explored without a fetus being involved. I also thought the whole marriage proposal Tom-Liz reunion was very cheesy and not believable. The sex scene was great and fit in with their characters, but everything else just felt too forced. If the Blacklist baby storyline has to exist, I am hoping for something very unconventional to happen, like Liz maybe choosing an abortion because she's not ready to be a mom, especially with a guy she knows is wanted for murder, international criminal, regardless of his sexy driving skills. Or the whole fake pregnancy idea someone had would be nice, which would lead to finally finding out who Tom really is and exposing his history with Red to Liz. I still trust the writers for now, just figure this is some new, much more complicated mystery. Maybe it's not a human fetus, but maybe some genetically altered super virus that has to be grown in Liz due to her exposure from that previous designer virus that Karakurt gave her. Hashtag Blacklist Mutant Virus.
It's not the X-Files, so let's slow down on that one. I think abortion would be really dicey for a network television show, I think.
Yeah, they can't do a real cross. They had to do the crisscross for the gin. How are they going to do abortion?
Yeah, abortion is a touchy subject. It would be kind of cool just because TV, it's very taboo, it seems, in TV, unless it's like an after-school special. So that would be kind of interesting, but I don't think they'll go there. We'll see where it goes.
Miss Monica, you are dark.
I like Monica. Geraldine, I did not care for instant pregnancy. I don't think it's instant. I mean, they did it on a boat a while ago. Having mulled it over for a week, I see it can be interesting, though. I am certain Red is her dad. Are you, though? He hates Tom, but this would be his grandchild. Red would be criminal. I'm sorry, Red may be criminal and can kill without a second thought, but he loves deeply. Forever in debt to Aram in tears for saving Liz, he killed Sam out of deep love.
I agree. I still say he really didn't want to kill Sam, but it was a necessity play. So, and he cried when he did it, too. Tammy said, I'm okay with it. I'm interested to see where they take it.
Annalisa said, she will probably lose the baby or give it up. I can't see them writing it in. It will also leave room for future storylines.
Possible. Sonia, after letting the twist marinate in my brain for a week, I still have a twinge of disappointment. Not because she's pregnant with not Tom's assuming baby, but because she went back to not Tom to rock the boat again. Classic symptom of just how weak she still is mentally. As I have said before, I don't care if she ends up marrying Tom again and they live happily ever after. I simply wanted her to make him earn it.
Yeah, that's my issue. I don't feel like he's earned it yet. Well, we'll get there when we get there. Nate says, I think it will be used to further show Red's connection to Liz or bring Liz's mother out of the shadows.
Da-da-da.
It felt ominous. Did I say it ominous? It felt ominous.
Sounded ominous. Right. I was scared. Amy wins this week. Not my favorite play, but I wonder if possibly they are using this to soften Red to Tom enough to allow them to marry in the condition that Tom puts his talent to use for Red's purposes and essentially creating a Team Red trifecta. Do I think they will bring the baby into the season? No. I think Liz is smart enough to realize the logistics of raising a child in the current situation. I think she will have the baby and put her up for adoption since it is something she holds so dear.
And it sure seems like they're debating that one, huh?
Yeah.
They're putting it in their heads anyway.
Well, guys, thanks so much again. Great answers. It seems like people are on the baby train now. Everybody's kind of, okay, we'll see where this goes. So
I think it started very angry, and then it got a little better as the week went on. And especially, I think, because they did touch on adoption for this episode, so everybody got a glimpse of hope. The people that were really against it got a glimpse of hope. Like, maybe she won't keep it. Does it make it horrible that a big group of people are like, give that kid up for adoption, don't raise it? I don't know what that means about us.
Well, if you go back to what I think it was Bokenkamp's interview where he talked about, like, well, he could have written Aram and Samar together, but then it's like where you take the story after that, because it's like the obvious thing where the Samar and Wrestler could actually build more story, which we got this week, which was totally awesome. I think this is a way that you could write it in for adoption, and then maybe she does give it up, and then there's like this longer story play of how she gets the kid back, which may tie into the ultimate, how does Red get his kid back, so it kind of has parallelism there.
No, maybe. We will see. But because this was broached this week, and a lot of people were talking about it, our profiling question of the week is, will Liz keep the baby? Will she keep the baby?
Explain your answer, too. Don't just say yes or no.
Yeah, explain why you think that, or what you think will happen. Theories are great.
All right, now join us as we confess our sins this week during our case profile.
All right, well, to help kick us off this week, Doc H was nice enough to write in a bit of a history lesson for all of us. Clearly, he was channeling his idol, history teacher Tom Keene. Doc enlightens us as follows. The 13th century territory between Bonn and Berlin, now Germany, was full of outlaws and mercenaries that roamed freely, preying on the citizenry. So the chivalrous Order of the Holy Vehm, a secret vigilante society, was formed by free men and commoners to protect themselves from the marauders. I can't ever say that word right. Initially, the order had the approval of the church and the Holy Roman Emperor, but eventually became a law unto themselves. I am the law. Passing judgment independently of church oversight. An oath of secrecy was taken by all with the courage to join the ranks. Within a few decades of its formation, the Vehm had more than 200,000 in its ranks, each sworn to uphold the Ten Commandments and to eliminate all heresies, heretics, perjurers, traitors, and criminal organizations. Toward the end of the 1800s, the Vehm went underground and seemingly ceased all activity. In the 1930s, during the rise of fascism in Central Europe, the Vehm resurfaced temporarily after almost 600 years. Thanks, Doc. I feel like Wikipedia just invaded the blacklist.
It's good information, though, because I thought that maybe there was something deeper, bigger, conspiracy theory. Maybe the cabal is part of the Vehm as this kind of episode played out. But unfortunately, no, it was just a fake thing to get some cash.
Yeah, that's how it worked out. But, well, I mean, they didn't think it was fake.
Not at first, no.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. Let's discuss the Vehm of the Blacklist. There were a lot of balls in the air on this one, as the team goes after one such secret agency. The Vehm here are a bunch of M&M hoodie-wearing eunuchs who kidnap a clown and torture the poor guy horribly. Now, this guy was a pedophile, correct? The way I'm understanding it. The clown was a pedophile. John Wayne Gacy here was a pedophile.
By the time the episode was over, though, it seemed like every one of the victims that we saw was thought to be a pedophile, but really every single one of them was a money launderer.
No,
the whole point was the priest taking out all the money launderers to clear the table to get them out of the way.
That's correct. Some of them were in the episode, but William Dow, they talked to his daughter, remember, and she said she saw him rape a boy. That was his daughter Amy that they talked to, that wrestler and Samara talked to.
You were right. I thought because they were doing it juxtapositionally with the psychiatrist guy, I thought she was talking about the psychiatrist guy.
Nope, she's talking about William Dow.
Gotcha.
William Dow.
Okay.
Yeah, she's talking about the guy that looks like John Wayne Gacy at the beginning.
See, if I would have watched it a full 3 times instead of only 2.5, I would have figured that out.
All right, well, Edward Weston was a Reddington associate, and after William Dow, the pedophile, is killed by a lead sprinkler dumping hot metal down his throat, Red puts him on the case because he realizes that, wait, people are taking out people I don't need taken out. And if they do need to be taken out, I want to be the one who takes them out. Turns out this is the work of a small group of former pedophiles who decided that they could do some good by cutting off their manberries and go forth passing judgment on the world, taking out shady people wherever they find them. As Samar says, monsters hunting monsters. So what do you like or dislike about this particular story? Because I know some people thought it was either too dark or felt too weird, or, where do you stand on it?
Well, when it was pedophiles taking out pedophiles, I thought that was a little bit strange, odd. Like, well, how does that have to do with the blacklist? I don't get it.
I thought it was cool as hell.
Well, when it became part of the church using the Vehm and making them into kind of like atoning for my sins, then I was like, okay, that's kind of a little bit more interesting. But then when you find out that it's really just to clear the playing field from these money launderers, then I was like, okay, this is where the blacklist plays in, because Red basically wants this organization under his belt.
Yeah, I figured that. I mean, Red's not going to get involved because of a bunch of pedophiles. Unless he has maybe he was diddled as a kid. Maybe that's what it is. But I liked it. I thought it was now I will be the first to say I was a little weirded out the first time I saw it. Like, what does this have to do with the blacklist? And then as it played out, it got more and more. But the second time I watched it, I think the first time I was coming off a high. I just got back from seeing a great movie, Room, which I highly recommend everybody sees it. And I came home and I slapped the blacklist on. I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch my show. And it was just weird as hell. And I just watched a movie about a woman who was kidnapped and held in a shed for 7 years with her son. And so I think I was probably just all creepy guy, pedophile, weirded out. You know what I mean? And so the second time I watched it, I had all that washed away, and I enjoyed it so much more. It was just, it is not a mythology-heavy episode. It's not one that's, man, there's so many pieces that are going to go forward to the full season. It's just, it's one of those, I wouldn't say filler episodes, but it's kind of a filler episode. And I really like the story. I think it's classic Blacklist once it plays out, and it worked well. And I loved the twist on the Vehm.
And I think I love the way that you use the word classic Blacklist, because this is, again, very much season 1.
Yeah, very much.
Here's the case. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take this out. It's Red moving chess pieces on the board to get something for himself. And then it's him and Liz talking to each other, and Liz going, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. And I think that's where this episode was like, even though it was kind of creepy, it was also kind of like, I want to see some more movement forward, but I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to wait. Even though it seems very season one the last 2 weeks, these are pieces I'm sure that will play out in the long run because it always has, right? It was up to Lucy Brooks, it was up to Berlin, it was up to the Fulcrum. So maybe these will come out and play the way they're supposed to. So I'm not passing judgment. I wasn't excited when it was over. I was like, oh, it's over. Okay.
Well, and here's the thing. I think we have been the whole first half of the season was very much a moving the plot forward, right?
Right, a very long movie.
Yeah, a very, very long movie where each angle had a piece that was being played into a larger puzzle. And now we've gotten to the second, or the middle of the season is where we're at. And things have kind of reset. They've kind of gone back to the way they were. So I think a lot of people, and myself included, I get where people are coming from. They feel like instead of moving forward, we now move backward. Because it felt, this does completely feel like a season 1 episode. I mean, even with Tom and Liz, they're acting like they're still in season 1 at parts, which we will get to, believe me. But for me, I get where people are coming from, but I also think this is it's setting the stage for where it's going to go from the back half of the season. And, you know, I talked last week about how I felt about Liz being pregnant, and I'm not going to go back to that. But I think that they are setting some pieces into place for how it's going to play out over the end of the season. And I think this is one of those occasions where, just like you cautioned me last week, be patient. I think this is where people should be patient. You need these filler episodes to get a little bit of the pieces in place to come into that back half.
Yeah, I mean, we did have, you know, the Ruslan Denizov and the Deer Hunter. We had some of these kind of standalone episodes at this time last year, too. Mm-hmm. So I think as long as they structure it in such a way that we get these standalone episodes up until whenever they take a break, or sometime around March, I'm assuming, you know, they'll have to be off for a couple weeks because they won't be able to run, you know, a full straight, whatever it comes out to be, 12 episodes or so. Mm-hmm. I think if there's a natural break and then it goes back into more of the mythology movie form, I think that'll probably be fine.
Yeah, I think people just got hung up on the very serialized nature of it, which it had gone to. And then this is kind of like a break from it. And I think, honestly, I think you need that break. Sometimes, I know some people, they want continuously serialized storytelling. I totally get that because I love that too. But sometimes I just want a break. I just want to enjoy an episode and a one and done. And this felt like a one and done.
I think what was missing for me was I like the procedural element. I like the case of the week kind of thing because even, you know, like X-Files, which just came back, had that for a long time too. And I think for me, it's I just want that nugget at the end of the episode like we had last week where it's like, I'm pregnant. And it's like, okay, well, how are they going to deal with that? This week, there was just kind of like, oh, great, Boz moved in across the hall. They're going to have cribbage night or something.
They had a little bit more than that involved, I think. But we'll talk about that.
But there was just like a hard stop. Like there was nothing that said there was a reason to come back next week. I mean,
guess what? That's life, man. That is how life works. When you find out big news, you don't always come to the conclusion the next day. You know, sometimes it takes a few weeks before you know what you're going to do. And I think that they're putting pieces in place for how the season will play out.
Because there was a line, and you know what? I'm going to hold it when we talk about Tom.
Okay.
I'm going to hold it.
Well, I'm not going to say I love that part of it, but we'll get there when I get there. Let's finish up the main story of the episode. All right. Turns out Cardinal Richards is a man who used to work with the Vatican Bank, but has been using the Vehm for his own selfish needs, giving them targets that aren't pedophiles so much as they are targets. And I got to say, I really thought the initial idea was kind of cool, that you had people that were actual pedophiles that cut their parts off and then went after their own kind, really, you know, and took out their own kind. Before I finish the Cardinal Richards part, let me ask you a question. Isn't that being hypocritical? I mean, shouldn't they give those guys a chance to do the same thing? You know what I'm saying? Like when they pull them aside, instead of pouring lead down their throat, say, hey, guy, look, you like to diddle little kids, and that's wrong. So we'll give you the option. Either we cut your parts off or you're getting lead down the throat.
I think that actually would have been an interesting conversation because then it's truly like being put on trial. It's like a test. Like there'd be some way to atone for forgiveness of your sins, if you will, in that regard, which I think is what the church's mission is, right? Atone for your sins.
Last I don't know, I'm not Catholic. I'm Baptist. Couldn't tell you.
I mean, most of the time it's about, you know, being forgiven and all of that stuff. So maybe it would be interesting to have that conversation in their little torture chamber. Like we can either
there's a lot of really big
door
hats.
Number 1 or door number 2.
Something like that. I just thought it was unfair. I'm just like, hey, come on. Yeah, if you guys are going to do this, you should do it the right way. Give him a shot. Give him a chance. Maybe he wants that option. Regardless,
or
Cardinal Richards.
Door number 3. Or door number 3, kill yourself because you're just evil.
You just had to throw your door number 3 in?
Of course, there always has to be 3 doors. That's how it was then. Let's make a deal.
I didn't watch it. I was too busy living my life. Thankfully, Red doesn't have to worry about due process, and he ends up finding out, once he finds out Cardinal Richards is actually using the Vehm to further his own agenda, Red seeks the Vehm on him. I like this little twist.
That twist was great.
Mm-hmm. That was good. So overall, that is the basic story crux of this episode. When you rewatch it the halftime, and you liked it a lot better, what about it does work for you in this story? Do you think the Vehm's actually going to come back, by the way? Because they didn't get caught.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what I liked about it the second and a half time through, was the whole concept of taking out a person on the chessboard to further Red's agenda so that Red could be in control of that group. I think that is classic Blacklist that I like, even though it is kind of season 1. But I do like that because it shows that Red is putting things into motion for something bigger. And the first time through, I must have either been too busy Twittering or talking to my wife or something, and I just kind of missed that whole concept of, like, did Red turn in the priest? What happened? How did the priest get into the... So I missed that completely the first time around. So when I saw it the second time, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. That played out the way I expected it to play out, and it works.
So do you think Red is going to use the Vehm again to take out further targets that he needs?
Well, he used the Pavlovich brothers in the pilot in season 1, and then you get the Pavlovich brothers coming back as a Blacklister later on in season 1. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would say the Vehm could return.
I absolutely think they could return. And they're still not going to have their parts, because once those are gone, those are gone. Ow. It's just painful thinking about it. All right, let's go to characters. This is Troy's end, so take care of it.
Yeah, so we got the music this week was Gary Lewis and the Playboys kicking it off with Everybody Loves a Clown. Let me just say I am extremely against clowns. I had to dress up as one in a candy store, and the kids tortured me for balloons. And then I had to watch It with Pennywise the Clown. Clowns and me do not get along. So when the clown comes on the screen and then you got to play Everybody Loves a Clown, I'm like, John, you're killing me here, man. Stop.
I like clowns. Except every time I see one, I do wonder if they're a pedophile. So
it's true.
Yeah.
They get a bad rap a little bit.
Yeah, it's not fair. If anybody listening is a clown, I'm sorry. It's a tough life for you.
So good choice on that song. Then you had Kristen. I never know if it's Kirsten or Kirsten.
Great choice. Not a good choice. That was a great choice. That was perfect.
Sorry. And then we have Kirsten or Kirsten Prophet. I'm not sure which one it is.
It's Kirsten.
Kirsten, okay. And then we have her song Hold On. And I think that was appropriate as well. Liz is trying to hold on to her life, have this season 1. Hudson kind of comes back in the picture. Tom is there. So I think that was a really great choice for that scene. Then you have Low with their song No Comprende. And I'm trying to figure out why they use this song over the scene of Harold and Aram, because it just seemed like it would... I don't know, maybe it should have been more like a bro song or a party song or something.
Don't understand. They don't understand what's going on. Can't understand what's going on in their life right now.
Well, they can understand what's going on in each other's lives. I mean,
no, they're all confused characters. They can't find their place in the world. They don't know what they're doing, man.
But it was just only over that last scene. You know, it wasn't over like Red and Liz's conversation, which would have made more sense. It was only over Harold and Aram at the end.
Because Harold doesn't know what's going on. He no comprende. You don't know what he wants to do. Does he go back to Charlene, who's can't even bang a guy down the street? She has to go right next door? or does he stay in the office and live with Aram?
Yeah, I mean,
have a wacky sitcom.
I listened to it a couple times after the fact. I guess maybe I just don't like the song. Maybe that's not my cup of tea.
I actually like the song. So you and I are on polar opposites this week, man. I liked it.
It's the first time in the show where I'm like, that's the one song I just don't like. Maybe it's the song.
I'm going to add it to Spotify right now. I'm going to play it all day long. No comprende, all day long. Well, I just gave it a Hispanic accent for no reason whatsoever.
And I should mention that in the show notes over at theblacklistexposed.com for this episode for the Vehm, and last week's episode, we started adding the links. So if you want to go to the Blacklist Spotify playlist that the showrunners are curating, you can click on a link there. Or if you're an Apple Music user, I curated the exact same playlist in Apple Music, so we have that link also depending on which service you're paying for. So we are, open to both sides of the house. But the songs from this week's episode are not yet on the Spotify playlist, so I had to go find them and put them on the Apple one myself.
I don't use Apple. I'm a Spotify guy, so I endorse Spotify. I don't think we get any money, but I'm still going to endorse them.
No, that's good.
Well, one thing we can agree on is we were happy that Dr. Jeffrey Maynard returned. That is Troy's boyfriend from the Alias.
That's right.
Yep. So can you actually tell medically if someone self-castrated themselves versus like somebody else cutting their parts off?
I would assume if I'm like an autopsy type person that you could absolutely do that because I'm sure the knife
cuts. You mean
cuts
a doctor? I believe
doctor.
They call that a doctor.
Well, there's doctors and there's doctors.
I'm just saying. I mean, they're basically doctors.
But
That's what they are.
But like when you're doing an autopsy, you're trying to like determine cause of death, and it's like, oh well, if you look at this bone was broken this way or this cut was this way, so yeah, you could probably tell how the incisions were because then the incision angle is going to be a different way if you're cutting it off yourself versus if someone's cutting it off for you.
That's actually all right. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. So when they're doing an autopsy, I guess they could, because if he's reaching down from above, although I still don't know how you could tell, because another guy could be maybe reaching over his shoulder doing it. Well, now you take it to a different place. All right. Well, were you glad to see this guy back?
Oh, absolutely. I love when the doc shows up. The only thing, and it's just me, right? But even this week,
usually
it's
Troy.
Usually is. He was very Marshall from Alias this week. So I just wish the doctor could have a little bit different persona because it looks too much like Marshall. Mannerism, speech pattern, the whole thing. It's too much Marshall from Alias.
Man, we just can't make you happy. God,
I told you it's going to be a rough week this week.
God.
I worked late last night.
If I wanted to talk to my wife, I would do a podcast with my wife. I want somebody who agrees with me. Shut up. Damn it.
I agree. You love the doctor.
I do like the doctor. All right, now let's go to who I do love. Dembe. Man, he didn't get much to do, but what he did got everybody talking. He was very stoic, and I think he only had like the one line, but that one line when Red was losing his damn mind and singing, was it Tommy Row Your Boat Ashore?
No, Michael. The song is called Michael Row Your Boat Ashore. I think Dembe was pissed off that it wasn't Tommy Row Your Boat Ashore, since Tom loves boats.
Gotcha. Whatever it was, when he said, that's enough, and he gave him that look like, Red, stop it. I had a hard time debating whether or not, is he pissed at Red? Is he sick of Red's antics here? Does he want Red to quit playing with this guy? You know, where did he stand? So where do you stand on that?
I think it was just a horrible rendition, personal. So I think maybe he's just like, oh my God, it's brutal. I can't take it anymore. So, but Dembe says that in a Dembe way with just, short, curt answers. Mm-hmm. I could see maybe he was like, okay, Raymond, because Liz hasn't been able to do the eye roll for Red stories lately. So maybe Dembe's become the eye roll for us.
I actually think he was irritated. I think this whole, and we'll talk about Red when we get there, but it really felt to me like Red was a little off this episode. Like almost like he was stressed out or losing it or just was playing with his food too much. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the only time he didn't have a glass of wine in this episode was in the opening sequence. Otherwise, he was drinking the whole episode.
Yeah, maybe he was tanked. I don't know. But during that scene especially, he really seemed like he just was off kilter, and I think Dembe was frustrated with those antics. So to me, the way I took it was he's just like, okay, you're going too far. Stop playing with this guy and just do what you came here to do. That's what I got from it.
I could buy that.
Okay, Aram. This is a nice little episode for Amir because he got to actually show off some wonderful character ticks, and also show what a great friend Aram is to everybody, both to Samar and to Cooper in particular. He just cares. And Aram doesn't even try to take credit for Wrestler's recommendation when Samar's all like, yeah, Wrestler recommended me. Can you believe it? After we had that crappy sex. And he just like, did he? And still plays along with it. I just thought it was wonderful. And then that cheesy smile when Samar finally realizes it was him was just wonderful. And then the ending with him and Cooper where he's just women and they drink limeade. I just thought it was a really fun Aram episode.
Well, and even when he says like the line "women," and then he like almost runs down the stairs, like he's so excited to be able to have a drink with Cooper.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm one of the guys.
Yes.
His ability to play both sincerity and innocence in the same minute, the same span of whatever character presentation he's doing is really wonderful. He's really become I've said this before, he's such the heart of the show. And I truly mean that, because anytime he's on screen, you feel something. You know what I mean? Even in the weaker episodes where you might not get something, you're watching Liz and Tom, it may work for you, it may not. You watch Liz and Red, and whatever they're discussing may work for you, it may not. Anytime Aram is on screen, I feel something. And I think that says a lot about his performance. And
I love, too, how Samar just gives him like the punch in the shoulder, like, hey, bro, nice job. Mm-hmm. So nice. Then he just took it with a swing. And he almost kind of was like, ow, don't hit me so hard.
Now, there are people theorizing that Aram will end up being a mole. Do you think there's any shot of that?
Gosh, on this show, it could totally happen. I'm hoping that's not the case. Because, I mean, if he's a plant,
it would be a twist.
It would be a twist. The whole show, he's been a plant the whole time. I think the audience would lose their freaking minds if that happened.
Yes, they would. Do you think this brought back any chance of a spark between he and Samar, or are they back to just being friends?
They were always just friends. Remember, Aram?
No, they weren't
like
friends
Samar.
there for a little bit. They were kind of like on the outs because he was mad hurt, wounded. So they weren't talking. So they weren't really close friends for a little bit.
Yeah, but they were always just friends. Clarify. Ram liked Samar a little bit more.
I didn't mean that. I mean, is there another chance for them to actually become more than friends? Is how I should have said it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think Aram's a forgiving guy.
She didn't do anything wrong.
Well,
what is there to forgive?
Well, she lied still. She lied to him.
Maybe, but she didn't. I mean, her sleeping with wrestler, she did nothing wrong. They're not a couple.
The sex scene was fine. Her getting it on with whoever she wants to get it on, no problems there. But I think she physically lied to Aram, and I think that's what hurt his feelings. Like, I thought we were better friends. That you could be honest with me.
Exactly. And also, I volunteer as tribute. All right, Cooper, that old stud is getting flowers delivered at the post office. Sleeping in the office. Man, his life is just coming apart. I saw somebody put on Facebook that couldn't you believe that the FTD can find the post office? I'm sure Charlene knows where her man works.
But it's a black site.
That's true. So maybe Charlene doesn't know where her man works. But FTD knows where he worked. Maybe they're not from Charlene. Let's make a conspiracy theory about those flowers.
Well, I looked at that post and I was like, okay, I totally get what you're saying. But then I was like going back and I was okay, maybe they send the flowers to like a front, like it's like a bank or something. Not the bank came into my mind, of course, because of Alias. But maybe they send it to a bank and then there's somebody in the bank that brings it to the black site. So it's plausible that you could get flowers at the post office.
Yeah, it's possible. I really didn't put any thought into it. I just thought it was really funny to see somebody that actually did. Like, wow, you put a lot of thought into that. I didn't even think about that.
The flower company can find it. Anybody can find it.
Man, love finds you anywhere. That's what it means. But did he keep them?
Oh, yeah. He said just go ahead and he handed them to somebody, right? And they took them away and put it up.
Yeah, but when they were in his office later, were the flowers there? I don't remember.
I don't know if we saw enough of his office from a camera shot perspective to know if they were there or not.
Okay, I'm sure somebody
saw the couch and it was like looking over the refrigerator or whatever he had in there. So,
do you think he and Charlene, because he's sleeping in the office, do you think he and Charlene should or will get back together?
That's a really good question. Do I care? I think is the right question.
Wow.
I mean,
do you care?
From a Blacklist story perspective? No, I don't actually. It came up. It was interesting while they were on the run, so it had some interesting dynamics with the cabin and everything. Now that they're separated, he could be in an apartment. Hey, him and Aram could move in together and have like awesome, get well, bitch, we got partying to do episodes or something. I think that would be even more fun.
Actually, I think that kind of would be fun, or at least for a while. Maybe they can partner up and live together. Well, I guess, do I care? I care.
They could get a tandem bike.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, anybody who's having an affair while your husband is diagnosed with cancer, I know if she quit before that or whatever, but.
Yeah, we don't know exactly when the affair took place because she's like, you were never home and da-da-da-da-da. So it could have been before he got sick.
Blah. Now, if she would have, done something with a guy in the office or some old friend or something, but the neighbor, come on. Yeah. It's a neighbor. He's like right across the street. Just seems wrong.
From the potluck. We went back in the shed while everybody was having chicken wings on the front lawn.
Don't make it gross, Troy. Well, I don't really care. I actually kind of like Cooper being solo, flying solo. Maybe he and Aram can do a few buddy adventures. That'd be cool.
And again, it goes to the parallelism of the show. everybody's kind of like on their own. Red's on his own. Tom's on his own. Liz wants to be on her own. And
Is that a word? Parallelism?
Parallelism. Yes, it is.
Are you sure?
It's a triple word score.
Okay. All right. Just because you got it at Scrabble doesn't make it a word. I got a lot of words in Scrabble that weren't words. What do you think about Aram and he bonding over booze and limeade and cherry turnovers, which apparently Keen is making cherry turnovers now. She's fully domesticated.
Yeah, I was like, when did she bring those in? I didn't see him come in. She was late to work this week.
Yeah, that's what she was making pastries.
I'll try them. If she makes them, I'll eat them. Sure, why not?
Why not? That was pretty funny. It was a great little touch and a nice blend of comedic timing between the two of them. They have a nice rapport, so I really enjoyed that scene. That was fun. Wrestler didn't get a whole lot to do, and don't worry, we'll get to Samara and her little joke. But basically, all he did was, so you believe convicted felons should be able to carry a gun. He was back to Johnny by the book this episode. Everything he had to say was by the book. You know what I mean? The convicted felons shouldn't have guns. He doesn't believe Samar should be working for the post office because we don't know where he's staying with you. I mean, he's by the book.
Well, and the one line he says at the beginning is the one thing I think that was the most interesting. Like, he's just kind of like, Donald, are you with us today? And he's like, well, where's Keen? Like, almost like he cared about her or frustrated that she wasn't there, or there was just something in that way he delivered that seemed very interesting to me.
She was late. He's by the book. He can't be late. Johnny by the book.
She's a consultant. Consultants come when they want.
His hair didn't move either. I kept an eye on it. Didn't move. He is a man. It amazes me. Every week it amazes me.
Well, you saw him. He looked at that cigarette that was laying on the floor, and he's like, get that away from me. I'm going to light up because it's going to take my hair on fire. Oh, my product.
He did arrest James Wagner for smoking, which I thought was a nice little touch because I knew that he was going to try to find a way to arrest him. I didn't pick up that it would be for smoking in a public building, but
hello,
works.
You didn't see the Chekhov's gun in that the whole time?
I know it was going to come back, but I'm just like, I didn't think my brain didn't compute that you can actually arrest someone for that. So that was a nice play because he's a money launderer. He's either a pedophile or a money launderer. I'm not a pedophile. I thought that was great. So that was nice. But really, that's all Wrestler did this episode. It was really not a wrestler-centric episode. Samar, though, she did a lot with a little. I mean, she didn't have a ton of screen time, but when she was there, she was making story moves. She had a hard time working with Wrestler till she thinks he recommended her, which he didn't. And then, apparently she read this recommendation. She goes to thank Wrestler, and Wrestler's really kind of harsh with her. And apparently we find out he sucked in bed.
So I've now watched this 2.5 times, but I've watched this scene quite a bit, actually.
I bet you did, you little vixen.
It was funny. The question I have is, I watched it on the third time. He laughs at the end, and it kind of was like...
No, he smirks. I don't want to say he laughs.
Like, was it like a touche, or it was like, okay, we're good now, or like, how did he take that comment? Did he take the comment as like, oh my gosh, you hurt my feelings because I'm a man, or did he actually be like, okay, touche, you're good, we're good, we'll move on?
All right, well, here's how this works, Troy. Anytime a man and a woman have had a relationship, a physical one, and I'm telling you this because I know you've been married for 47 years or whatever, so you don't have any experience outside of that.
You said 47, alias number.
Oh my God, really? You need help, like serious psychological help. But anytime you've had that kind of relationship and one slights the other one in a negative way, at some point that comment's going to come up where you throw out the, yeah, well, you weren't very good in bed. And so the guy either takes it all personally wounded style, warrior style like, and cries and mopes and decides that he shouldn't be doing this anymore. Or he smirks and laughs it off. And I think that's what Russell was doing.
But was it a smirk and laugh it off like to smirk and laugh it off? Or was it a smirk and laugh it off like, touche, okay, we're good, we're partners again.
I think that's what it was. It was just like, whatever, okay. You got it out, you got me. Or whatever. But I don't think he's hurt by it at all. No.
Okay.
Plus, he's too good looking. He ain't worried about it. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Now, what do you think about Smart? Because, I mean, throughout this episode, that's obviously my favorite line of the whole episode. I just thought that was hysterical. Well, don't take this personally, but you sucked in bed. It was a nice little touch, especially for someone that always has their guard up to kind of lower their guard just to get that out there. I thought that was pretty good.
Well, and it was a juxtaposition of that, too, when she was getting the Vehm when they're in their chamber of torture, and then she's getting beat up, and then Wrestler's like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, well, I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, there's definitely some issues. But it seems like by the end they're going to be all right. But there is going to be a little back and forth between them, I think, from here on out. Meanwhile, you've got her and Aram have reconnected, which is the nice touch. So I think things are back where they were before they had sex.
I think Samar and Wrestler having these little like quippy one-liners back and forth as the show goes on, I think that'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a dry humor and just drop them in there and kind of hide them. You know, I don't get subtlety apparently, so maybe it'll help me learn as the show goes along.
You always got to take the nail and just hammer it in. Hammer, hammer, hammer. All right, now we are at Tom, who apparently forgot that he did all that bad stuff. Because now he's back to season 1, Tom. Got a job in Boston as a teacher. Even the dog is back. Where the hell has this dog been?
That is the one thing everybody is complaining about in this episode. Like,
just
the dog
came back.
Was the dog on the boat? Was Boz watching him? Like, where was Hudson this whole time for the last season and a half?
Okay, that one was ridiculous. I liked it because everybody's happy the dog's back, but I'm like, you gotta explain where the hell this dog has been. Was it in a kennel? Where's this dog been? Mr.
Kaplan's been watching the dog along with Red's cat at that apartment. That's where they've been.
It may be. That might have even worked. It's just when the dog shows up, I'm like, I swear to God, I feel like this is a season 1 episode right now. You got Liz and Tom are happy and talking about their future and teaching and everything else, and he's acting like he never did all the cruel, mean things he did. And she's all like, we're going to have a baby. It totally felt like season 1, did it not?
Oh, it absolutely did. But the thing that I have to say, whether you like Tom, whether you hate Tom, whether you hate the relationship, like the relationship, the one thing I love about Ryan Nagel playing Tom right now is the comedy stuff, because it is just gold. When he drops the line about pancakes, I didn't even make pancakes. I was like, oh my God, that is so awesome.
Why is that awesome? I didn't catch that one.
Because that was their whole thing in season 1 about making pancakes.
Da.
And
yeah.
It's like, yeah, so I promise I won't make pancakes. I was like, ha ha.
Except I don't, man, that's I've said that forever. That is my problem with their relationship. He hasn't earned it, and you can't just act like you didn't do all the cruel stuff you did before. I just don't. Apparently, from the preview for next week, it seems like there's going to be some more to that. So I'll hold off my final judgment on that. But at this point, I'm like, okay, it feels like you just did a time jump, like we jumped in a DeLorean, and now we're back to season 1 for this particular part of the story.
And I was going to say, don't castrate me, but
you should have, and then not pointed out that you said it, because then it wouldn't be hammering it in like you just did.
There was a line. Tom's talking to Liz towards the end of the episode. You know, hey, I'll take care of it. It's our baby. He keeps stressing that. But then he said something like, I gotta go away for a while, or I have to go do something. And when he delivers that line, it's like an opening for, okay, Tom's going to disappear for like 5 episodes. Like, that's the first thing I thought of. It was like, great, Tom's going to be gone, and then he's going to show back up, and it's like season 2 all over again.
Well, that didn't work out. He lost his job because of Red.
Right.
Like, Red's getting involved. We'll get to Red when we get to Red. But, so Red's getting involved, and he lost his job, and I wonder if he'll find out that Red cost him that job.
I'm pretty sure that he figured that out in the conversation. He's like, yeah, I didn't get the job. And then Liz was like, Reddington. And he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll find something else. He's not going to stop me, is what I kind of got from the conversation in the subtext.
Okay. Well, let's go to Liz. Apparently, she knew she was pregnant. She was just panicked about finding out for sure. I never got any hint of that in any previous episode that I recall.
Yeah, even when she was getting drowned in the sink, she's like, oh, no, not the baby.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, she lies to Red. She does lie to Red about Tom not knowing, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
She says to Red that Tom doesn't know, which apparently Red knows is a lie.
Oh, yeah,
because he knows everything.
Yeah, because he knows she was pregnant.
Yeah, knows everything. Liz makes a friend. Do you think it's going to come back into play, her lying to Red?
I think they set that up with the whole baby reveal, that the baby, so it's like a triangle, it's a love triangle in a way. It's the Tom Red baby triangle. Mm-hmm. Like, who's going to get the baby first?
Interesting. Well, she wrote a pro-con list, and we've got the pros and cons, which I'm sure every avid fan has already paused it enough to see them. But her pros for having this baby, okay? My baby, family, chance for a normal life, Tom with question marks. But he was in the pro column.
With a question mark.
But he was still in the pro column.
It was the last thing she wrote, and she wrote it very like, maybe.
She didn't write it across the line. She wrote it on prose. So I'm just saying, prose. Cons. Everything in my life. Reddington, I'm a felon, no friends, no family, don't know anyone with kids, and can barely take care of myself.
At least she, first step to recovery is knowing you have a problem, right? Because clearly we know she can't take care of herself. That's why she relies on either Tom or Red all the time.
Seems like it, yeah. Seems like it. So when you're looking at that list, what do you think's going to happen? She's going to keep it or give it up? Ignore what the show is setting up for you to believe. What do you think?
I think she clearly in her mind has made up the fact that she does want to give it up for adoption. I still think there's a kidnapping coming down the pipe. Either Red kidnaps it before it gets to the adoption agency, or Tom kidnaps it. Like she goes through with the birth, and then somehow she's expecting it to go to adopt. Maybe it's an open adoption so that she can visit the child and be in its life. And then something happens that the baby disappears, and then she's like, "No, my baby!" And then they have to hunt the baby down for a season.
Is that just because that's the one storyline I don't want?
Is exactly. I picked it just to piss you off.
Well, good job. Good job. Based on what I've seen, I think that she will have to give the child up for adoption. You know what? I think it would be a good move, because then you could go over her turmoil for having to give her child up when we think Reddington might have had to do the same thing, or some people think that still.
And it would go into that whole, you have to be the guardian angel, and you can watch over her your whole life. And
exactly. And then by the end of the show, she would get her child back, I would hope.
They all get reunited. Mommy, daughter, and daughter. Assuming it's a girl.
Who's mommy? Is it Red still?
You told me I can't talk about my theory. Even though everybody likes my theory now after this week's episode.
I wouldn't say everybody, but we'll get there. Okay. We're almost there, people. We are there. But there is one more thing. At the end, Liz considers adoption once she realizes that she made a friend across the hall and Red taketh that friend away. He made Tom lose his job. Red is still controlling her life, and I think that's why she goes to adoption, because she doesn't feel like she'll ever be safe or alone and able to raise this child.
Yeah, maybe
that's how we close the show out. Now, what do you think about that? I mean, do you agree with her?
Yeah, I think so. I think if nothing else, she figures the best way for me to have a relationship with my child is for my child to be protected in another family away from this. So it's not like she's giving it up for adoption. She's giving it up for protection via adoption.
Right. She's protecting her child.
Yep.
And that's what every good parent would do, honestly. You would do what's best for your child. I'm perfectly fine with that. And if I was her, I would be pissed. There is... Okay, I want to talk about their conversation, and we will. That's the last thing we're going to talk about, because it plays into several things that are going on.
Are you pissed that the couch is a pullout, but yet it doesn't look anywhere near the size to be a pullout couch?
I'm pissed that she would keep the couch. Personally, I would toss that couch out the window. Be like, you know what? After bugging my house and sending a man into my life and everything else you've done to me, I don't want anything more from you. I mean, we could be friends and all that other stuff, but I don't want gifts. Just, we'll work together. We'll figure this out. I appreciate you clearing my name, but I wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for you anyway. That's how I would do it. But I'm not Liz.
Right.
But I do love her hair. I got to say, her hair's back to normal. Thank God. I never liked the blonde. I'm not a blonde guy. So she looks gorgeous.
I was okay with the blonde. The issue was it looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks while they were on the run. She can't find a shower somewhere. I mean, Red always looks like he's dapper and got a suit and everything. She can't wash the rag. So, and I just
think it's a beautiful cut and a beautiful color on her. It works.
It's great. The problem was, I think, with it was she came on, the Today Show, and she was on with Michael and Kelly, and she already had the haircut. And so everybody was like, oh, when is she going to get rid of the blonde hair? So it was kind of you knew it was coming. So the reveal wasn't as exciting. I think they should have waited for her to go on to the show circuits until after this episode aired.
Oh, well, it is what it is.
Yep.
Just because we're dumb enough to get ourselves spoiled, it's not her fault.
Well,
yeah, that's the right answer.
You're watching it expecting to hear interesting tidbits and whatever, and then she walks out and you're like, oh, the blonde hair's gone. Crap.
I never watch interviews expecting to get big tidbits of the show. They can't tell anything. I watch them because I like the actors and I want to hear their repartee. So that's why I watch them.
But you still watch them, and then in either way, you still scroll through Facebook, and then you're like, hey, she was on, oh, man, she's got short hair again. Dang it,
yeah,
I'm spoiled.
Except for Stephen Colbert. I won't watch him with any of the cast members again. All right, Red.
Before you go there with Red, I just want to say, I did like and maybe some people don't like this, but I did love the back and forth between Tom and Liz. The whole oh, and the rock hard abs. Oh, I didn't write that down. And then the exclamation points. I liked their banter back and forth. It kind of reminded me of some kind of time in the Blacklist when things were kind of still innocent. Mm-hmm. And maybe that plays into the fact of the show going forward and how they tell some of the stories. But I did like that back and forth between the two of them. I like them together. I just don't like them together,
Yeah, and that's always been what I've said. I think the actors are doing a great job. I think they have a great chemistry. And if this was season 1 mid-season, this would be great. But it's after everything else that has gone on, that cute back and forth. I mean, the aggressive and passionate sex last week, that made sense to me. To me, that makes sense with where their characters are. It's just who they are as people right now. But this whole back and forth, sweet, cute, making baby plans, and I'm going to go back and be a teacher and all that stuff, that to me doesn't work for me personally. Okay, it's just me. That doesn't work for me because I don't see that as a natural evolution of their characters. Now, I'm not writing the show, so it really doesn't matter what I think, but that's just how I see it. That's just how I see it.
Cool.
That's why I had a problem with it. I just like what you said. I love those two actors together. It's just at this point in the story, I don't like those two characters together.
Right.
There you go. Red was a bit odd this episode.
A little bit.
As we talked about. Yeah, really, really weird. Almost like he was just drunk the whole episode like you were talking about. Maybe communion wine apparently causes some issues. Do you think the stress of Liz is wearing on him? Or is that just my misconception? It was just a normal Red being quirky episode.
Maybe he needs a nap. Like Liz was saying, it's like, oh, you've been on the run for 3 months. Can't we just take a rest? Maybe he's just overtired and thinking too much and stressed out, and it's causing him to kind of maybe slip up a little bit and lose focus. And maybe that's playing into the story. Maybe there's something that's going to happen to Red because he is losing focus. Like Dembe was like, Red, we got to move. Red, so-and-so's on the phone. We got to go. Come on.
Yeah, I think that is an important thing to know. I really kind of think that's where we're going. And it would make sense. It would kind of be cool to have Red slip a little bit. You know what I mean? Instead of always being on top of everything, to see him slip here and there. Or to see more of the really, truly evil and weird parts of his character. I love that aspect of it. I mean, it's just something different. And that whole Michael row your boat ashore scene was odd and I loved it. I loved it, but it was weird.
The tape that was over her mouth, and it made it look like she had teeth or something. It was kind of creepy.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of scenes where you're reminded that he's kind of like Hannibal Lecter, except he doesn't eat people.
Right.
And that's, I think sometimes we needed that reminder, and that was a nice reminder that he's not this teddy bear that some people think he is. And some people do think that way. Red knows how pregnant she is, of course, because he knows everything.
Yeah, I just happened to notice the way you were eating stuff on the road, the way you looked, the way you were carrying yourself. It's like, yeah, that's what you're explaining to her as, but I think you knew because you knew somehow, some way, regardless of how she was looking or acting.
Which that's going to come when we finish up with Red, so we'll come back to that. He does say the addition of a child will make that infinitely more difficult to accomplish their goals.
I love that line.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, he's channeling Aaron right there.
It sounds like exactly what I said. And then, he finds Liz's attacker, and he goes on a soliloquy where he talks about, I'm a violent man, and he says all these things about who he is, and he always romanced the idea of an outlaw and, bad guys and that sort of thing. And then they realize they have to go, and he just shoots Liz's attacker 3 times after making him listen to this. Do you think that guy deserves to die?
From a Red perspective, absolutely. From every other normal human being perspective, no.
Did you think they were actually going to catch him that quick?
I didn't think it was even going to come up, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I thought it was over. I really did. I actually like this payoff because we'd all been theorizing who sent that guy. Did anybody send that guy? Turns out nobody sent that guy.
From that payoff perspective, then yeah, I like the scene. And the first time I watched it, I didn't actually notice the gun was in his right hand laying against his leg. Like I was so focused on what he was saying that I never saw the gun. And then the third time I was like, oh, he did have a gun the whole time. Because I seriously thought he was in therapy. Like Aram's like, I used to go to therapy. It sounded like a therapy session.
It just went back to him. Like, here's a flashback to my therapy session.
Yeah, but potentially. Like maybe they were going to pay that off from that conversation.
And the Vehm shows up.
Yep.
There's one thing I want to point out about this. I've seen so many movies and TV shows. It's sickening. And one thing always bugs me is when you see an actor who shoots a gun and they flinch. It's almost always, it feels like anymore, where the actors will shoot a gun and there's kickback and whatnot, and they always flinch. So I'm always extremely impressed. This sounds like a weird thing for anybody, but I'm always extremely impressed when an actor can shoot, especially like repeatedly, without flinching. And if you watch that scene, Spader doesn't flinch. He doesn't flinch once.
Solid, like a statue.
There's no blink, there's no eye twitch, there's nothing. He just fires. And whenever that happens, whenever an actor can pull that off, because it's always very rare that I see, and trust me, this is one of those weird things that I always pay attention to. It's weird. I realize that, but I always do. Because to me, if an actor can do that, it convinces me they're a killer so much more. It really does.
Or at least have killed and are okay with it.
Exactly. See, when you've got a guy who supposedly has killed hundreds or whatever, or plenty of people, and they can't pull a trigger without flinching, I have a hard time buying them in that role. It sounds stupid and weird, but it's true. And Spader doesn't flinch. I love that.
But it always comes in threes, apparently.
What's that?
It always comes in threes.
Like he's like Jim Parsons on Big Bang Theory, or what?
Exactly. Remember, he shot Diane 3 times too.
Maybe that's how he knocks. This is how he knocks. He does find Gerald Sullivan hiding in the woods with his lady Brenda. Red thought that this is the guy that he's singing a song to. He thought that he ordered these guys killed. Turns out he just didn't want to be one of the dead guys. That leads him to the Cardinal Richards. And that's where Red says, "I'll be your father confessor. I know the hypocrisy is staggering." Great line, by the way.
Loved it.
You see him drinking communion wine, which is a very nice touch. And then he takes out the Cardinal. As he tells Samar and Liz, the reason why he did so is so he can raise capital for a war. Now, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the question is the war against who? The war against the Cabal, the war against, because he's apparently now a member of the Cabal, or is it a war against people that are trying to bring down the Cabal? Because there was the 3 players on the map. So the war is an interesting line, and maybe that's my nugget that I was looking for the bring me back next week kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's like we already knew that was coming, so that's why I didn't pick up on that as the nugget. But interesting concept of war for us. So he clearly knows that his team is his team.
Yep, I think this is going to lead to the war by the end of the season. I think that's how we're going to end. That's where we're going.
Now, the question, I guess, is it Germany or Russia? Because we've kind of gone back and forth. We had the German episode, and now we're talking about the Vehm, which was tied to Bonn and Berlin, and the Bonn people, and then you have the whole Russian thing with Berlin. So where is this war taking place? Is it somewhere in between the two countries? Are the two countries teaming up against us in 2017? Is Germany and Russia going to become an axis, even though they were enemies back in World War II?
Possibly. I don't know, Troy. I don't even have a theory on that one. Hadn't thought about it. But I'm assuming Russia, because it's been Russia a lot so far.
That Germany keeps coming back up. That's what I'm saying. Maybe there's like a new shifting in the Eastern Bloc.
Like there's some underground Nazis that are going to come out?
Or communism, or a Nazi communist combination.
We're probably working with the Germans, and then the Russians are pissed that we're working with them, so they're going to come after us.
Maybe.
Let's go with that. There you go. We'll find out. I have a feeling really soon.
No offense to any Germans or Russians out there.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're an underground Nazi, offense. I don't care if I offended you. It's all the good German people I don't want to offend, which I'm part German, by the way. We're going to discuss that one scene, the scene that everybody was discussing, where he talks about the inconvenient child with Lizzie. And, just like every good serialized show, the very last 5 or 10 minutes is where you get the best story nuggets. And this is where this conversation happens, where he elaborates on what he was trying to say with Liz. Or, before he kind of implied that a kid would be a bad idea, and that's not what he wanted to come across. He talks about how Lizzie's mother felt that she was inconvenient, that she dreaded having a child and almost aborted it. Fun fact, how does he know that? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Then she was born, and there was never a day when she thought you were anything but a blessing. There's never a convenient time to have a child. And this is the part that got everybody talking, and there's 2 ways you can take it, I'm sure, Troy. So This does play in a little bit to your theory, so why don't you go ahead and take this one? Does it help or lend credibility to your theory that Red actually is Liz's mom with a sex change?
I absolutely believe it. It ties into my theory 100%, because how could Red know all of these details so intimately? You know, it's one thing if you were like friends with Katarina back in the day, and then you have to go back to you were, naval intelligence, United States. Why would you be hanging out with somebody from Russia and da-da-da-da-da unless you were undercover the whole time? And so there's all that you can play into it, but such intimate knowledge as this would have to mean that you were either there to make the baby, or B, you were there because you were the one that had the baby.
Okay, you done?
I'm done.
Okay, as a dad, you know all those details as a dad, too.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
that's the two options. Either you had the baby or you made the baby.
Yeah.
In which case, then the father thing comes back into play.
Yep, father thing definitely comes back into play. And, maybe he's not her father. And so technically he's telling the truth because, he was a sperm donor and therefore he wasn't there. So he doesn't consider himself to be a father, whatever the case is.
Sperm donor? That's where you're going to go?
Yeah, fertilized the egg and, basically wasn't there for the raising. So therefore he's not really a father.
That's actually a really interesting concept now that I think about it, because that would be totally Blacklist, where somehow they gathered all these super spies around the world and they're trying to build like the next master race. So
okay, that's not what I meant at all.
But it would be very Blacklist.
That'd be very odd. And I don't think that would help with him understanding how Katarina felt all these things, if that were the case. I meant sperm donor like he was with her, they had a relationship, he impregnated her, she had the baby, but he wasn't able to stay with her to raise the baby. So he's not her father.
Oh, a real sperm donor.
Yes, a real sperm donor. That's
Gotcha.
what I meant. God. But so those are I do agree that unfortunately that keeps Troy's theory in play. But there is one thing, but I don't agree with his theory. I think it's dumb. But the one thing that I got from this, okay, is as a fan, as an avid fan, as a guy who loves this show, watch it every week, love it, watch it several times every week. And the people listening to this are the diehard fans. You guys are diehard fans. I'm curious what everybody else, if you agree with me or not, that they need to have a conversation. The whole idea that Red could have this epiphany and discuss it with Liz about how deeply Katarina felt about this child, and Liz doesn't force his hand, bugged the crap out of me. Because I think we're at the point, and I realize they don't want to tip the hat and tell everything until the end of the show, but you have got to do something. You either have to have Red lie to her, which shakes the show up a lot. I mean, if he basically tells her something that isn't true and then we have to doubt everything he said before, whatever. But he has to tell her something, because the idea that she's going to keep working with him, knowing that he knows exactly what the relationship, knowing that there's a relationship but he won't tell her, makes no sense to me at this point.
See, I'm going to disagree, because I think with this conversation this week, I'm agreeing with you 100%. It is at the point now where the audience isn't going to buy this anymore. You need to let something out of the bag, just enough that at least the audience is satisfied at this point, because we are almost 3 seasons in complete. And I think at this point, whatever it is, father, uncle, sperm donor, mother, whatever, I don't think that is what the show is about. I think they could reveal that answer, and the show is still about whatever is coming in 2017 with this war and the 3 factions. I think they set that up where they could write themselves a different story without this being what the story is about. So I think at this point, that answer has to come by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I do. And like I said, I'm even okay if you lead Liz astray and you use that to play off the storylines, and you build how, look, he is duplicitous. He's not going to be completely honest with her. There's all the time you've been buying that Red won't lie to her, turns out he will lie to her, and that changes the entire crux of the story, and I think would still hold true to the show, because Red is a freaking criminal, and so if you hold him in this high esteem that he's going to be a good and decent man, it's not the show I'm watching. But I think because of this conversation, as I watch it, all I kept thinking was, at some point, this is where Liz has to put her foot down and be like, no, I don't want your stupid couch. I don't want your stupid hippie across the hall. I want to know exactly what this connection between you and I is, and I want to know now or we're done because I can't do this anymore. I'm going to run off with Tom to Boston. We're going to pack the car, and we're going to have this baby.
And maybe that's a better profiling question of the week for us, too, would be more along the lines of, if you knew the answer, would you stop watching the show? Or would you still want to see what happens after you know the relationship?
I think it's, why don't we just tell people if you want to answer, then go ahead and send in an email and we'll read it on next week's show. But our profiling question, we should keep it because we already did it.
Yeah.
We already did it.
But I'm curious, like, if you knew the answer of the relationship, were you still interested in watching where the story goes if there were more story?
It's a good question. Good question. So send in your thoughts. That's a great way to move on, I think.
Sure.
And anything else about this episode you want to talk about?
Nope. I'm just glad it's over. It wasn't the best episode. It wasn't the greatest episode. It was just kind of like, But, I like the moving pieces on the chessboard. Yeah, we play Colby versus Monterey or something. I don't know. Jesus. Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, pieces on the chessboard, and I like that concept of the black. I always love that there was something bigger at play, and the fact that he mentions the war. So, I'll give this like a B- this week.
I'd give it a good B+. I actually really enjoyed the darkness of it, especially the second time after I had all that ickness from Room.
Well, see, I love the darkness. I love the molten lead and the opening sequence with the clown, and I'm like, this is right up like a stew maker alley, and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like, oh, it's eunuchs and pedophiles. Ugh, no.
Yeah, well, I don't like those people, so I'm good with it. I'm fine with that. And the only thing I didn't like was the whole Liz and Tom thing, which we talked about. I don't need to dwell on that.
No.
But I still enjoyed this show. I thought it was a fun episode. But I will agree with people. It was more fun the second time. I didn't really enjoy it the first time. So maybe if you didn't like this week, because it seemed like there seemed to be a large part of the community that didn't seem to, or had issues with it, rewatch it again. Maybe it'll feel a little better. Or you'll be siding with Troy, and nobody wants to side with Troy. Nobody wants to side with Troy.
Lots of people do this week. Just saying.
They shouldn't. Shut up. All right. Show's not over, so don't go anywhere. But please remember, and please know, when I tell Troy to shut up, it's meant with love. Please don't write in. Okay.
I love you too, man.
Yeah, I love you too, man. Show's not over, so don't go anywhere. But please remember to download the Blacklist Exposed app for iOS and Android, and be sure to go even deeper into the mystery of Red Reddington by visiting our partner Blacklist site, theblacklistnbc.com. Now fully redesigned for 2016 and mobile friendly. All right, and before we go into Red's rhetoric, we actually have a promotion for you to listen to, and I don't want to tout it, but it sounds just like me giving it. All right, so I don't want to give you a surprise, but the guy who's doing it sounds just like me. And he's talking about a show that Troy happens to be on. So it's a really fun show. It's called Remake This Movie Right. Here's a promo. Are you sick of the endless, poorly realized remakes as we are? Then take a listen to Remake This Movie Right, where we take a classic movie, figure out what works and what doesn't, throw a dash of humor at it, and then we craft our own remake. So by the end of every episode, we will remake this movie right. Recently featured as a podcast to listen to by the AV Club, you can find us at RemakeThisMovieRight.com or your podcast app of choice. Every movie you love will get a remake someday, and only you can make it better.
This week, 69% of folks are down with faux. Faux leather, faux paws, and faux reds, making Red Fred this week's victor. Our first scene this week comes when Red hunts down Liz's attacker.
I'm a violent man. I've taken on a life that requires it. I hurt people. I kill people. And each time I do, in that moment, another part of me dies along with them. When I was young, I romanticized the life of an outlaw. Bad guys. You attacked a pregnant woman, broke 3 of her ribs, battered her so badly she was left lying unconscious in a grocery store parking lot.
Our second scene comes when Red is practicing the art of confession.
Stop me if you've heard this one. A priest, a eunuch, and a pedophile walk into a bar.
Excuse me? Who are you? What are you doing here?
I'm here to offer you the sacrament of confession. I'll be your father confessor. I know the hypocrisy is staggering. You know what my problem with religion is? Man. Like anything that has the potential to be beautiful, man will turn it into something ugly. For every saint, there are 2 million sinners.
Which are you?
Like you, I'm a sinner. An envious one, I might add, as my transgressions are not nearly as divine as the ones you've been guilty of during the years you've been associated with the Vatican Bank.
I'm afraid you were misinformed. I did work with the bank to bring an end to an unfortunate era of waste and corruption.
Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of the incorruptible. But your new pontiff, he is not your father's holy father. He has an undeniable decency, which you sorely lack. Yes, at his instruction, you helped to root out corruption so that the Vatican Bank would no longer be in the money laundering business. But to paraphrase Aristotle, corruption abhors a vacuum. So you moved right in, you and your little band of eunuchs. Kudos on that, by the way. Gathering sick men, tricking them into thinking they're killing pedophiles when in fact they're killing money launderers whose business you covet.
The Vehm cleanse the world of God's mistakes. Their other targets are necessary sacrifices for the good of the Holy Church.
No sin in murder or money laundering, so long as it serves our Father here on earth. Or you.
Which was your favorite? Be sure to sound off in the Facebook group or vote in the Twitter polls. If you've ever fantasized about being a bad guy, then vote for Red Outlaw. Or if you're doing the good work of the Father here on earth for your own betterment, vote Red Sinner.
All right, now we move on to Special Agent Intel. Doc, who wrote our little history lesson, also wants to share his theory before the episode. I believe Fitch was, and Reddington is, part of that secret tribunal committee, one that still exists but has relevance as a force of global good in the battle at hand against modern nasties like the Cabal and other evil agents acting against mankind. The references earlier about the folks in Bonn, the conversations with Fitch, his being groomed for
Admiralty? Is that
Admiralty?
a word?
Is that a word?
That's a triple word one there.
Probably. I was in the Navy. I don't know that one. And life as a career intel officer. Everything says Red is a good guy and still on task as a super deep undercover mole in the Vehm. He shot a guy 3 times that was just sitting in a chair. I don't know if he's a good guy, but whatever. Do I think he has changed the dark side? No. Has he been disloyal to the U.S. and his sworn oath as a military officer? No. Okay, I'll come back to that when we're done. I do think he has infiltrated so far, though, that he sees a higher calling. Probably, but is still on task for his primary mission. Has he thrown away the original playbook? No, but I do feel he has been calling a lot of audible calls lately. Calls that started when he came in from the cold during the pilot episode. I just want to jump back to your, has he been disloyal to the U.S. and his sworn oath as a military officer? And you said no, he absolutely has. I was a member of the U.S. Navy, and I can tell you, he hath broken many of those. Sorry to disappoint you. But cool theory, though. I mean, that is, what do you think about that? You think he's still undercover?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that you have to take into account, everything that's been going on in order to come up with Red's game plan. So Doc could be onto something there, but I kind of agree with you.
Okay. Andrew writes in, this episode was mediocre to me, but then again, you get moments from the Blacklist when the Blacklist feels almost like a horror movie. Remember the Mombasa cartel back in season 2 where Wrestler was being hunted in the forest by a giant man who liked to take baths in front of his mother?
Okay, stop. Because when they were singing the campfire songs, immediately I thought of Giant Soapy Guy. And then someone else is talking about Giant Soapy Guy. I don't want to be reminded of Giant Soapy Guy.
I do.
I mean, it was a great episode, but I just haunting images of taxidermy people sitting around a campfire.
I do. I like that episode. And what was the point of singing Michael rowed the boat ashore by the campfire? It was a very strange scene. We talked about that a lot. I'm not sure what the point of those scenes, I'm not sure what the point of this scene was. Maybe it was code to meet with someone who can help him take down the rest of the cabal. I think Dembe was frustrated by it too, so as he cut the song off mid-verse. The Vehm weren't quite that creepy, but they sure came close. From the very first moment we see them, in their white cloaks with their fully shaved bodies, the Vehm are menacing and terrifying. Well, I think the first time we saw them was in like gray hoodies, because they look like Eminem. Their methods were beyond cruel too, pouring molten lead into their victims' stomachs. As this was not a normal episode for Red, it just seemed a little disjointed. Red's revenge on Liz's attacker was quick, though the man looked like he had been beaten. Still, Red's dispassionate pumping of 3 bullets in the man's chest felt unsatisfying.
I don't know if it was unsatisfying. I felt it funny.
I laughed.
Yeah, I was like, oh, just like Diane. Bang, bang, bang. You're done.
Hey, you know what? If my baby mama was 3 months pregnant and got beat to smack in a parking lot, I'd be okay with some other dude shooting him. That's cool.
Cool.
So it makes sense to me.
All right, Dondi is in and says, was kind of dreading this episode because of the pregnancy. In my opinion, it's dagnab near impossible for a person in Lizzie's position to be pregnant or have a baby in tow and do it safely. It's unfair to the child, and it's constant risk to anyone associated with Lizzie, even Hudson. I put that in there myself.
Where's Hudson? Don't worry, he'll come back in season 4.
I was also sort of surprised that Red knew she was knocked up in the first place and that he was wise enough not to say anything about it until she brought it up. If I was Liz, I would appreciate that a lot. I was hoping that Liz could avoid the inevitable drama with Tom, but that hope is dead. To be blunt, I do not want to watch this sort of thing, and the writers should have avoided it like the plague. After all, if I wanted Sean to land, that's just a click away on another channel.
Ouch.
Ooh.
Ouch.
The main story was kind of meh, although, as usual, the dialogue was fun, and to be honest, I did not foresee that the Cardinal coming at all. I figured it was someone a lot farther down the food chain. That's all for now.
Oof, that email's a scandal. Rory said, I thought it was an okay episode. Didn't like the cute scenes of Liz and Tom, but we did get a new dog. LOL. Red. Well, he's just as amazing as ever, and his story time with Liz revealed that he was closer to her mother than we might have thought, or maybe her mother. The Blacklister story was meh for me, and I just hope the action picks back up since we are leading to this war Red keeps speaking about.
Pam said the return of the dog was a jump the shark moment. Everybody's picking on Hudson. Oh, my goodness. Jump shark moment for me. It was ridiculous. I didn't find Red amusing at all in this episode. He's an unrepentant, cold-blooded murderer, and his affection for Liz doesn't make up for that. Loved Aram, though. He was charming.
And the dog is kind of a jump the shark moment. It's not. I mean, I still love the show. It's just, as soon as he showed up, I'm like, is that Fonzie? What's that? Oh, it's probably something they might regret later, but it is what it is. Carol said, least favorite episode of the season. That's all Carol said.
Ellen said, after last week's ending and the promo for this week, I had very low expectations for this episode, so I didn't even bother to watch it live. And now that I've seen the recording, I'm so glad that I didn't, as this episode was awful.
Ouch.
It's right up there with the absolute worst episode of the entire series.
Ouch!
I didn't like Red. I didn't like the baby stuff. I didn't like the case, as I don't like the episodes that make me feel like I'm watching another episode of Criminal Minds. Yuck.
What's to say about me if I do like that? If I do like really twisted, creepy cases. Wow, man. Robin didn't care for the episode. I feel like there's a trend. Was a literal snooze fest. So since I fell asleep during this show, I rewatched this morning. I felt that around the campfire scene, even Dembe was questioning Red's sanity. I do have to say, though, I love Aram's personality and the way his character is blossoming before our eyes. Samara might not deserve his friendship, but she certainly has it. And Cooper needs a friend. Glad it's Aram. Agree that if Red knows all about Liz, it's time to let us in because I'm getting bored with that storyline.
Just saying. With you. Bill said, just rewatch the ep. The verdict is in. Thumbs down. So he watched it twice and still didn't like it. Anyone ever heard of The Godfather 3 or The Da Vinci Code? Didn't advance the story. Had to watch Weak Tom. Didn't even like pre-homicide pep talk. That's funny. I like Dembe's one line because it was actually how I felt after wasting 2 hours that I will never get back. Talk about mailing it in.
Okay. Paula says, wow, I'm in the minority. I enjoyed this episode. I'm with you, but it did take me 2 episodes to get there. Not a fan of the Tom baby, but I'm okay with watching it play out. Same here, especially if it makes Red share more. Aram's look when he said women to Cooper, so funny. I'm glad Lizzie's back in black, didn't like the blonde.
Agree 100%.
I like that, back in black. They should have played that. Oh, that's a miss.
Hey, I said they should have played Judas Priest.
No, they should have played back in black. Back in black.
Dad joke.
Mm.
Judas
Yeah,
Priest.
you're full of dad jokes, man.
I'm glad Liz's dark hair is back, too, from Sophie. I love Tom, but him being able to jump right back where they left off because before she found out about him, as if nothing has happened, makes him seem like a complete psychopath. Liz's willingness to just move past it all is a bit disturbing as well. The story of the week was okay. Love Samar's nothing personal but you sucked in bed. Made me laugh out loud by myself. Smiley emoticon. And Troy, I never liked your theory before tonight, but the way Red spoke about how her mother felt about her pregnancy throughout the whole pregnancy and immediately after birth seemed to come from the heart, although he could also have been very close to her mother, lovers, partners, friends, while she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad her hair is back, too, by the way. David. Hate to say it, but didn't enjoy this episode. Well, you couldn't even leave on a happy note, Troy, when you put these together? Just reporting the news. I got you.
I did, and on a happy note, you'll see.
Oh, okay. Was okay with the softer Tom. He'll kick ass when he has to. Was disappointed with all the relationship stuff in this week's episode. It felt like a soap opera. More could have been done with the Vehm, although the initial murder was brutal.
That's the one thing I totally agree with. I think the Vehm were underplayed in this ep a little bit. I wanted to see more of their stuff, so maybe they'll come back, like we talked about.
Well, I mean, they're still out there, so they absolutely could come back. And more with the guy who assaulted Liz, he got off too lightly, and was curious about the scene in the woods, where it was Dembe who said, "That's enough." Red almost seemed slightly deranged while listening, and then the look on his face after Dembe spoke. Red's level of protectiveness over Liz is reaching creepy levels. She was always protected before, unless she was grocery shopping. That's my ad. More subtly, but now it's in front. But now it's right in her face. And Aaron is correct. There is no logical reason to keep Liz in the dark anymore. Holy crap. I hadn't read this. I swear to God, I hadn't read this.
Is he already like listening to us? Is my office bugged?
Whoa. He was protecting her from the fact she shot her father. He may as well inform her of what they are up against and why. Also, Troy Heinrich, your theory is getting more and more plausible. God, son of a bitch.
Happy note.
Son of a bitch. How is that a happy note? That's not a happy note. Oh, man. Okay, that's going to do it, I think, for this episode, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay, so I think I'm going to have to just cut you off now.
You can't use it. There's like a rule of 3 in comedy, Troy, and you've hit about 12.
12.
So can't do it. All right, big thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. There's a lot more Blacklist coming. I think... Just remember, just like last season, we had a little point where people were getting concerned. Just watch it play out. We'll see where it goes. I think we're going to end up going somewhere that we end up by the end of the season, be looking back at these episodes going, man, loved it. So let's hang in there. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question of the week. Will Liz keep the baby?
And explain.
Yes, and explain. Definitely explain.
Great, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right, take care.
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.